realized they bombed the ambulance and stuff.
Oh yeah, clean it up.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
It's pretty cool. Oop. What was that? Just waiting for this to go live. So, alright, it appears we are live. So.
Everybody here?
That is correct.
Alright, rock and roll.
Everybody involved here, thank you for coming. I'd like to announce who's participating. Tim Petrikis and Tim Keeney, Selectmen. Mike Marinaccio, the Chief Financial Officer. Brian Wissinger, the Assistant Finance Director. Kim LaFleur, our Operations Director. Chief John Roach and Glenn Reynolds. Everybody present?
We're here. Here.
Okay. Before we get started with the Chief's overview in terms of the current situation with COVID-19, I'd like to make a few announcements. To my knowledge, there are 7,781 positive cases in the state of Connecticut. Approximately 1,308 have been hospitalized. 277 deaths. Per the governor, apparently hospitalizations are down, which suggests a flattening of the curve. That may be premature, but it's a hopeful sign. Increased testing is taking place, and Connecticut is next on the list for drive-in, next to the Rhode Island initiative. We have 12 confirmed cases in Summers, which includes 1 dead and 1 confirmed cases in the Sibosky prison. Vermont's recent executive order has further requirements for social distancing, tighter security for manufacturing facilities and gatherings, face mask, elimination of in-person meetings, and continuing working from home and following the governor's stay-at-home and stay safe executive order. A brief update on our directors meeting yesterday. Social services calls have moderated somewhat, but we're still active. Meals on Wheels, and we're partnered with the schools and will supply the 18 plus meals at no charge to our shut-ins. The meals will be delivered by our own staff. I signed a memorandum of understanding with United Way. They will provide us with 4 vouchers at $200 each, which we can submit to needy families in Summers. Recreation, we partner with Geisler's to deliver food. As of this writing, we have not closed the parks yet, but we're considering that. Department of Public Works has posted large signs at the various parks and schools indicating social distancing and limiting the amount of participants. As far as the senior center is concerned, we continue with our wellness calls to our shut-in, along with our dollar ride program, but we're limiting our passengers to 1 at a time. Luigi Sartori, he's our health director, will now participate in our weekly directors meetings. Schools will probably be closed through the end of this year, probably not opening until the fall, but determination of that will be made by the state, hopefully today or tomorrow. Graduation for seniors has been postponed, probably until July, or additional time to be indicated later. As far as communications is concerned, we've partnered with the schools and to expand our alerts in addition to the town website, Facebook, Twitter, and our radio announcements. So that's the extent of my comments to this point. I'd like to have additional comments from Glenn Reynolds as well as Chief John Roach as to where we stand with the COVID-19. Chief?
Good afternoon. I'd like to throw my thunder with the statistics there. So one of the big things for us today that we just found out is that instead of the prisoners being sent over to Suffield with McDougal Walker, the positive COVID patients are being transferred to Northern here in Summers. So that could present a problem for us. But I saw a letter from the state that went to a friend of mine who works there, and he forwarded it over to us just to give us a heads up. So we'll have to evaluate that in the near future. And the other big thing that we did is we got our, each department head kind of did a little write-up of something that they want to put on the radio station. So we formulated put all this together, and Chris Boucher recorded that. It's about almost an 11-minute recording that will be going out on the town's radio station fairly shortly this afternoon. So that's about it for me.
Just a question here. This is Tim. What's the capacity at Northern to receive COVID-19?
I want to say their census was way down.
Yeah.
I want to say the facility was capable of doing 500 or 600, and I last checked the census was down to about 100, which means they can probably host probably 400 or 500.
Yeah, they have two full empty tiers.
And they're all single occupant, like single inmate to a cell tier, and they're locked in and walled off, which why it makes sense why they're doing it. But
As far as medical attention goes, they're kind of limited there, aren't they?
correct. So they're leveraging a little bit of Osborne, some of the staff next door. They're bringing some extra staff in there as well. But yeah, it's not like a full infirmary.
And if they do need something for severe cases, you have to go all the way to Farmington.
Yep.
And you
So
guys drive
we've got one ambulance that's on its way back from Farmington right now. We've done 3 calls today.
and you're the only source of transportation.
Primary, again, if we needed to, we could fall back on mutual aid. But yeah, we're the primary call if they need help.
They're considered as part of our citizens, so we have to respond.
Right. It's just a long trip to Farmington for an emergency assist, right?
What's that? Yeah. And so yeah, Glenn just got an updated text. They've got 19 so far in Northern, and they're expecting at least another 100
Oh, jeez.
Wow.
with 300 open beds.
Wow.
So that is going to keep us a little busy. I have started up staffing, especially during the daytime here. So we're going to start doing that just to make sure we can get the trucks out and we're not burning our members out going back to back to back calls either.
John, I guess the demographics of the prison population is older, from what I understand, so I guess they'd be more susceptible to this virus then?
Could be, yep. And a lot of them also have pre-existing health conditions.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
So John, how do we prioritize calls for other residents in Summers and make sure that if there's other resources for transports from the state, we help you get those?
Right now, it is a first in, first out call basis. We haven't had any to the point where we haven't had resources available. If we needed to, though, again, if our trucks are tied up, then we do have a pretty robust mutual aid system in place with all of the surrounding communities. So we call in Ellington, East Windsor, ASM. So we'd still be able to get units. And again, by upstaffing, we'll make sure that we'll at least have resources here to do first responders. So we'll get somebody to the house real quick.
Okay.
Speaking of, just to keep going with that, since the last update, we've now tracked about 22 calls that we've done that meet criteria for COVID. Not all have tested positive, but we've done about those. And then just a general uptick of calls. So a typical call volume before this all broke out was 5 or 6 calls a day. Last week we were doing 2 or 3 calls a day. Since Sunday we've been doing 10 calls, 9 calls, 10 calls, and we're at 4 calls, 5 calls already today. So our call volume's definitely started picking back up. So we're just going to staff up, ramp up. The good news is none of our members are sick. We don't have anybody out, and we're actually doing very well on PPE. So we're confident that we're in a good position to handle it. Our third ambulance is supposed to be in another week or 2. We're pushing them hard to see if we can get that in sooner. But who knows? We're trying.
John, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Would it be wise for us to at least discuss as a board and perhaps ask Bud to look into getting National Guard to help us if the prison population goes over X with COVID so that you've got additional resources up there?
I don't know. I don't think we'd have to go that far just yet. I think we'd look. First, would be warrant to have some more calls and conversations with the prison staff to see what they've got for resources, what they're bringing in. I don't want to jump to the next step and find out that they're going to be able to leverage their own resources. So we're trying to figure that out.
I guess,
I'm
John,
concerned about the balance. I'm concerned about the balance of the residents in town if we're compromised by serving, up to 300 open beds at Northern. That's a lot on your staff, and I want to make sure the rest of the residents in town are getting the responses that they would expect from your department. So keep us posted.
And so the good news is we've got some leverage right now, so we're up staffing. So we'll make sure we've got some extra bodies here to make sure that we can respond appropriately.
John,
Our volunteers and state staff have all been great at stepping up.
John, this is Bud. With the addition of the third ambulance, how many calls do you think you could handle per day? Of course, it depends upon the length of the call and where they're located. But
Yeah, everything's different, whether it's length of call, whether or not we've got if it's up to Johnson and back, the trucks can be doing, 10 calls a day is nothing if we're going to Johnson. If we're going to Dempsey, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
How long does it take to get to Dempsey?
good news is traffic's down, so we'll probably make it there in about an hour. But it's still, by the time you get the patient, pick up, go to Dempsey, decontaminate, get back in the truck, come back here, clean up, it's probably 3.5 hour round trip for the truck.
jeez.
It's a lot.
John, let me ask you another question. If there are simultaneous calls that came in from the prison and one of our citizens, I assume we give preference to our citizens first and then use mutual aid for the prison call then?
We'd have to watch out. So it legally has to be a first in, first get the truck. If we had 2 or 3 calls at the prison at the same time, we would try doubling them up with multiple patients in the same truck we could transport to at the same time. But with Medicare and Medicaid, we have to be very careful. We can't go on record saying that we're going to prioritize one patient over another. Everybody's legally entitled to equal care, and they are legally considered residents of the town of Somers.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully this peak will be here within the next 10 days or 2 weeks, so we should have a better handle in terms of staffing and response then.
Yeah, so we're doing good so far. I just wanted to at least keep everybody in the loop that we are seeing an uptick.
Okay. Any additional comments for John or for Glenn, gentlemen?
No, I don't have any.
No.
Okay, keep us informed, John. Next item on the agenda is the Chief Financial Officer's update. Mike, it's all yours.
Yeah, okay. I'll turn it over to Brian to give you an update on the budget and finance issues.
Okay. So we've been tracking the COVID-19 expenses. As of the check payment register on the agenda today, we've had about 3,300 in supply expenses that have actually processed, with some invoices coming in to be processed. Starting the salary schedules to track salary expenses for the COVID-19 as well. As of right now, we have Glenn Reynolds 100% dedicated to the EMD role, so his salary is 100% being allocated to the COVID-19 expenses as well. Even with all of this going on, though, it does not seem, at this time at least, to be impacting our general fund budget in any kind of large scale. I don't anticipate this hurting our return to fund balance at all at this time. We're still anticipating that $200,000 to $300,000 mark for the town side. We recently received an email from Brian Zappa as he's gone back and reviewed his. The school is looking at $250,000 to $300,000 return on their side as well. So we're potentially looking at $400,000 to $600,000 return to fund balance at the end of the year, providing this doesn't get crazy out of control and we have to start buying emergency ambulances or anything of that nature. But at this time, it doesn't appear that it's going to impact our bottom line greatly. But I'm sure that we will see my guess is probably about 20 to 30,000 of expenditures on the COVID-related expenses come year end.
Brian, let me ask you a question. For hopeful reimbursement from the feds in terms of this crisis, I assume we could take part of my salary or your salary or Mike's salary or Kim's salary, since we're spending quite a bit of time on this. I assume that be permitted as an expense?
Yeah, so usually these FEMA grants have a administrative allocation to them where you can, which is why we're tracking everyone's hours in town. So all of the department heads that are even on the weekly phone calls are documenting it on their timesheet, and that way we can keep track of that because these are all people that are taking time out of their normal day to work on COVID-related items in general.
Okay.
Now, those salaries actually get reimbursed, so there's a potential for revenue source for the general fund?
Yeah, so most of these grants are usually 75% of expenditures. So if we, between salaries and actual supplies and everything, if we, see $30,000, we should see a 20 or a 75% reimbursement on that $30,000 expenditure, and that would be basically just other miscellaneous revenue that would go back into the general fund to offset these expenses that were incurred.
But if you're paying for salaries that are already budgeted, doesn't that mean if they're reimbursed that there's a revenue, there's a revenue plus for the general fund?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it behooves us to track this and keep accurate information because, again, that's reimbursable, potential reimbursement.
Yep, I've got a spreadsheet, and I'm just going time card by time card and listing the payroll period, the employee, the number of hours, setting up what their hourly rate is, if they're a salaried employee, determined based on how many hours they work and so forth, determining their rate. And then each week or each pay period, as their timesheets come in, if there's more hours, just plugging it into a cell and it's just calculating it all out at the end.
Okay. Mike, any additional comments?
No. Why don't we give them an update on this year's budget process there too, Brian, on the flyer that we have?
Yeah, so the flyer, let's see, today is Wednesday. So DG Graphics got back to me yesterday. They were going to begin printing the flyer today.
Okay.
They said if they could get it finished today before mail went, then it would be in the mail today and in homes tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be in the mail tomorrow and in homes on Friday. We are setting up a dry run of the public hearing for April 20th so that we can see how it's going to work between Zoom and live stream and every other thing under the sun that we're dealing with right now. And then April 21st will be the public hearing, and we'll get all the information together. Board of Finance will meet after the public hearing. They will vote to approve the budget and send it to the Selectmen, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Selectmen will adopt it, and the Board of Finance will then meet again and set the mill rate.
Okay.
And I believe we're going to keep those dates the same as if they were a referendum and a town meeting. So
the flyer reflects that. So.
Yeah, so the May 5th date would still be where the Selectmen will meet to approve the budget, and May 12th the Board of Finance will meet to set the mill rate.
Just to reiterate, Brian, when we have this public meeting, there'll be no interaction. I guess they'll just view it, and any questions will be submitted under separate cover. Is that correct?
No, they can call in.
They can
with
call in?
Zoom, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting actually, and it was something I was going to run by Mike, but since we have a platform here where we're discussing it, we can all kind of discuss it. The town of Manchester just posted on their Facebook page actually for their public hearing that they're having. They're requesting that residents that would like to speak during the Zoom call, they're requesting that they register ahead of time with the town so that the town can verify that they are in fact residents and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then they're then allowing them they're setting it as a password protected
Yes.
Zoom meeting, and then giving them, once they've registered and been cleared, then they're emailing them back basically what the password is so that they can get in.
I like
so
it.
I don't know if that's an option we want to try.
My concern is it would become cumbersome if we didn't have some sort of procedure like this,
Oh, yeah.
given the fact that everybody would want to speak and can really get out of hand.
Well, that's why then the only people that would be allowed to speak are the ones who pre-registered.
Right.
No one else would be able to get into the meeting.
I don't think it's an option not to allow the taxpayers
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah.
If you read the governor's executive order, and I talked to Carl Landolina about this,
Yeah.
that is the one requirement of this public hearing, is to allow the taxpayers to speak so that you can get their comments.
Yeah.
Literally, you don't even have to live stream this meeting. I mean, it's like before we had cameras, we didn't live stream our public hearing,
Right.
but we did allow the public to come in and speak. So I think that if you just did, and I didn't realize you could do password protected, that sounds pretty good to me. That's pretty innovative. That would limit things. I mean, the moderator of the meeting can limit the conversation.
Right.
And we can let it go on, or we can cut it at a certain point. But you do need to allow the public the opportunity to comment on the budget. So I
Mike,
would say,
My other option was going to be, since I'll be creating the meeting through Zoom and being considered the host of it, obviously have everyone muted from the time that they enter the meeting, and then they can use the hand raising feature. I know it's in here somewhere.
Yeah.
But they can, anyone who would like to speak can raise their hand, and then when it gets to that time, I could select that person, unmute them, let them speak, put them back on mute, move on to the
that's a
next
good
person.
system.
There's one other
Chat
option as
feature
well.
is there as well.
There's one other option as well, that typically in a town meeting, we elect a moderator. We do the same thing.
no, this is a public hearing.
Using the chat window, a resident could let us know that they would like to speak, and we could queue them up, and then the moderator could call on the resident, unmute the resident, let the resident speak, let them know if they're approaching their 2 or 3 minute limit. But I think we can follow the rules we have for a typical town meeting and use the chat window as a moderator so we don't have 52 people talking at once.
Yeah, the one distinction here, Tim, is that this is a public hearing and not the town meeting. But if you recall, we used to have the town public hearing over at the school, and then we moved it into town hall so we could film it. And it's just part of the whole presentation. In fact, it's a Board of Finance public hearing. And at the end, we used to have Joe Tolosano moderate the questions. And so it's pretty much free form. It's maybe more like the zoning commission in a way. But I think it's good. I think we should have somebody having people sign up ahead of time. That doesn't mean that we couldn't entertain others. I mean, but it's not exactly the same as a town meeting. We don't have any, actually, in this whole cycle, we don't have any requirement for a town meeting.
So Mike and Brian, so they'll make their comments. The public, we don't have to respond at that point in time. We just take their information and respond at a later date, or do we have to?
No, you don't need to respond at all. It's a public hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
And what you do, the purpose of their comments are so that after the meeting is closed, the Board of Finance considers those comments prior to voting to hand off the budget back to the selectmen.
So you've got to have a record of the comments, and that's pretty much it.
That's correct.
I would say unless it's a simple question, like maybe somebody just didn't understand one of the slides or something. Yeah, there wouldn't be. We're not going to have like a live Q&A session. We would have, if they misunderstood or didn't, missed one of the slides, they could ask the question to go back to it. But beyond that, yeah, we wouldn't have a live Q&A session.
I like the idea of the pre-registration to speak. I think that's a great way to control the multiple voices that want to speak.
Okay, I like that too. That I don't know if we need to vote on that, or how do you publicize that?
That's a good question. Is how do we publicize it? Maybe
the
we
flyer
can
would
get
have been
something
a
out
good
on.
place to do that.
Yeah, and the flyer would have been a good place. Unfortunately, now it's printed. We could get something both on the website, on Facebook. I could email Chris, and he could put it on the radio station even to let people know.
Yeah.
I think another thing we can do is we can publish the agenda early next week with the link for the meeting, and then on the agenda of the meeting itself, saying if you wish to comment, please email so-and-so to pre-register.
Yeah, I like it, Mike.
So that'll be on the agenda. I think that'll suffice in terms of FOIA.
Yeah.
So who should we direct for the registration? Because obviously it's got to be somebody who has access to the voting records to make sure that they are a citizen of the town.
Have to be David McCaffrey, right?
Well,
I was going to say, should we send Ann's in more often? I was going to say, should we send it
got
to
an active
Ann or
list.
to Kim?
Yeah, I would say Ann. She's got the active list. Or even David. Either one.
So
David's here daily too, so.
Yeah. No, I think Ann's is the right choice.
Yeah, whatever you think. Either one.
Just let her give her a heads up on this.
She's
we will when
listening.
we do the
She completely blinded her with it. She'll just get an inbox full of emails of people wanting to register, and she'll have no idea why.
So you're just checking to see whether they're a resident and not a voter, right? Just a resident.
Right. They just have to be a resident to speak. Right. It would be like at any other public hearing where they give their name, address.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll follow up with Ann, make certain that she's aware of this, but I'm sure she's listening in, as Kim has indicated. Any additional comments, Brian or Mike, regarding the update?
Just quickly, I sent out an email to the Selectmen earlier today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a chance to see it.
Yeah.
It relates to executive order that the governor,
That's a lot of
one of the 23 executive orders that the governor passed, relates to the suspension and modification of the tax deadlines and collection efforts. It's going to require action by you, and obviously we can't do it on this meeting or agenda because we're in special meeting mode. But if you will read it, look it over, I've suggested what the following actions should be, the follow-up actions, and we should probably have a vote on this on our next meeting next week. So we'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah, thanks for sending all that information out in advance, Mike. That's helpful.
I just had one question on that information, if I could. The deferment, is that a deferment for just 60 days?
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, I just want to make sure because you don't get the extra 30 days after the due date.
Yeah. I'll have Lisa on that call also. She's pretty adept at what's the nuances of the whole executive order and this is and all the and which way to go with it. What I've told you is kind of the feedback I've gotten from my team in terms of the best choice. But I think you should listen to what she has to say too.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which brings up a good point, gentlemen. We have this meeting scheduled next Wednesday, the special Board of Selectmen meeting for these updates. And we have a regular scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting the next day. Do you want to combine those meetings to one day? And what's your opinion going forward for both the updates on a weekly basis and the every other week for the Board of Selectmen meetings?
I think both are important, but as I mentioned, the
Yeah.
public meetings every other Thursday are important. And, I've got a full-time job, so I don't know that I'm going to be available every Wednesday. It's been wall-to-wall for the past 3 weeks. So I would like to keep that Thursday alternating schedule in place, but I think these are equally important right now.
I do too, Tim. I guess that my first question would be for next week, since we have a meeting both on Wednesday and Thursday, you want to continue both of those for that particular period of time, and then go forward then every other week?
I think we could move them into one meeting next week. Is my
Well, that's
suggestion.
that's my feeling, Tim, and then proceed as
Yeah.
Tim Patricus has suggested on the weekly updates on Wednesdays, and the regular Board of Selectmen meeting to cover any additional other details every other week.
I like that, yeah.
Is that all right with you, Tim Patricus?
And we'll keep the 6 o'clock regular meeting then, next week. And you'll get your update on the COVID stuff and director's meeting, instead of doing it, meeting twice, so.
Right.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
fine. If we're moving the special meeting into Thursday's meeting, that works great. Thank you.
Cool.
that's correct, and then we'll be on the regular schedule thereafter during the period of this crisis,
Yeah.
the Wednesday and the Thursday every other
Yep.
day. Okay, all right, great.
I'll resend the invitation.
Okay.
Does that mean then that our next regular meeting, which would be 2 weeks from next Thursday,
That's correct.
we would have two meetings? We'd have 2 meetings that week.
Yes.
The Board of Selectmen.
Well, that's what I'm discussing. That's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
So-
I think we'll see how it works next week, but I think it could probably meld 2 meetings into one.
Well,
that's what
that's
we're
my
doing.
gut. I'm just trying to respond to Tim Patricus's issue. And of course, this information on the COVID-19 it's a fluid situation. I'm trying to keep everybody advised. But if you gentlemen feel that we should have both the update on the COVID-19
Well, you're gonna get it, right?
and the Board of Selectmen meeting, that's your opinion, your discussion. So that's why we're bringing it up.
Okay.
So, I guess the question is, do you want to continue to have these weekly updates for the COVID-19 meetings on Wednesdays?
I think yes. Unless we have
Well,
a regular
I think I heard
scheduled
something
meeting.
different. I think I heard that on regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting weeks, we have the regularly scheduled Thursday
Correct.
night
Correct.
meetings.
Correct him and
Without a
no.
Wednesday meeting that week.
You got it,
And on the
kid.
alternating weeks, we do the Wednesday.
That's
So the
right.
Wednesday meeting would be every
One meeting per week.
other week.
Thank you, Mike. 1 meeting per week. Not that I don't love y'all, but once a week is good.
Who's on first? Who's on first? Yeah. Okay.
You guys are great. I love you.
Yeah, we just want to make sure everybody's up to date, but I'll do my best to keep everybody tuned in here.
All right.
Okay.
So we're good. You got to do payments.
Yeah, authorization
gotta
for payments.
Take a vote on that.
Does everybody have the payment authorization that Brian sent out?
Yes.
Any additional comments, questions, or concerns?
I had some questions I already asked Brian earlier today, and they're all.
Okay. So the amount is $84,768.15.
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Nope.
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Okay. Move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Stay safe, gentlemen. Don't forget to wash your hands.
All right.
Bye, guys.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
We're going.
Good meeting.